Thank you very much. We now recognize the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Schweikert.
Thank you, Mr. Temporary Chairman. You look good in that seat.
Someday.
Sorry, he's actually one of the people I actually like, which is a fairly small list. Mr. Chairman, without,
How small is that list, sir?
you are way up on top of that one. 'Cause you know she's actually, never mind. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to actually introduce a list just partially to help me make a point of the number of members of Democrat leadership and basically national unions who actually support the tariff policy, both in the first Trump administration and demanded that the continuation of those tariffs continue under the Biden administration. Without objection?
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. York, in reading over some of your testimony, can you help me? Because I've been working on sort of a concept. And I don't know if I'm speaking to traditional tariff models, but much of the world has a tax arbitrage on us. You know, you export to us, you get the refund of your VAT tax back. When we send other countries something, they attach it back. And in some places, and forgive me, I'm a little out of date, you know, Germany might be 18 points. China has actually graduated according to industry. Is there a design, whether it be a destination tax or cash flow tax or some of these other models, that actually at least would mean from a tax arbitrage standpoint, American workers, American manufacturing might have a level playing field? So there's a hierarchy in this question. What first should I do so our manufacturing, both in and out, would actually have a level playing field with tax?
Yeah, most other countries across Europe, they rely on value-added taxes. Those are border adjusted, which ends up being trade neutral, like if we adopted a value-added tax or a DBCFT would end up being trade neutral. The reason we have an impediment to manufacturing and investment and productivity in our tax code is the way we define our income tax base, and that we base your tax residence on being in the United States. We have a source-based tax system or an origin-based tax system. So because we deny full deductions for investment, full deductions for research and development, we increase the cost of capital, and because we don't have a national level consumption tax, we rely heavier on income taxes than many of our trading partners rely.
So Ms. York, what would you design that would be in some ways maximize productivity, maximize tax receipts, maximize benefit to working population in this country, but would be as minimally economically distortive as possible? Is it a destination tax? And is that sort of, you know, an economist's vision of what a future tariff model would actually look like?
It would be moving toward a consumption tax that can take on many different design elements. A DBCFT is one option that transforms the base of our corporate tax to a cash flow tax. You can do that without the border adjustment. If you do full expensing for all capital investment plus eliminate net interest deductions, that gets us to a cash flow tax. That removes that barrier to investment that's created by long depreciation schedules. If you don't want to border adjust that tax, you could do a value-added tax if you want to add that element to the US
If I was
system.
trying to avoid moving to a national VAT, because...
Then I would border adjust the cash flow tax.
All right, who really objects to a border adjustment?
What we saw in the debates in the lead up to the TCJ was that the big debate occurred over whether the currency would appreciate. The currency appreciation is what makes it trade neutral because you're applying the tax on imports by denying that deduction, and then you're not taxing exports by providing that exemption.
Yeah. It's
so
like
you have the currency adjustment.
I know this is your specialty, but slightly more complex because you also pick up hopefully the export additional value of some of the refundability of things being exported out.
Yeah, you have a question if you're an exporter in loss position, whether you get that tax
Yes.
refunded to you. There are design options for that you can make it equivalent. But I think that was the big impediment, the question of whether currency would appreciate. And I think most models point to that it would. If you look at the experience of the 2018-2019 tariffs, you saw currency appreciation. If you look at recent tariff announcements, you see currency appreciation just with the threat of tariffs. So I think we have reasonable evidence to say that the currency would move.
And we're out of time, and I really had something I wanted to touch on. Look, when this hearing was first announced, my first thought was, well, this is another got you hearing. But the reality of it is, I look at the history of my Democrat colleagues, and in many ways, this was my brothers and sisters on the left side who this was what they evangelized. It's just that we happen to now have a more populist president who's now talking about it, so it's very confusing for folks. My hunger is to try to find a way to make it economically rational, that it maximizes exactly what my economist friend here was saying, that maximizes the robustness of economic capital stock and productivity. And Mr. Chairman, this is one of your moments to help us actually try to find a common economic vision instead of trying to wedge each other. And with that, I yield back and hope for another round.